Have you ever noticed something strange? Some of the biggest regrets in life aren't the things we lost. They're the things we chose to leave behind. The relationship you ended, the dream you gave up, the job you walked away from. You tell yourself, I made the right decision. But weeks later, months later, sometimes years later, one quiet question keeps coming back. What if I was wrong? Why does the mind refuse to let go, even after we've already let go? More than 400 years ago, a Korean philosopher answered that question in a single sentence. And today, modern psychology says he was right. We spend our lives believing that peace comes from making the right decision. But perhaps peace has never depended on the decision itself. Perhaps it depends on what happens after the decision. Today's story begins with an ancient Korean classic called ChaeGeunDam and ends with something every one of us carries, the weight of unfinished choices. People often say, once you let go, you'll finally be free. But that's rarely how it works, because letting go isn't something your hands do. It's something your mind must agree to. And the mind is remarkably bad at saying goodbye. Long after we've moved on, it quietly whispers, maybe you should have stayed. Maybe you gave up too soon. Maybe your future disappeared the moment you walked away. The pain doesn't come from the decision. It comes from arguing with the decision after it's already been made. Centuries ago, Chaegundam captured this truth with extraordinary simplicity. If you abandon something while still doubting your choice, you have never truly let it go. At first, the sentence feels almost too simple, but the more you think about it, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Because many of us leave with our feet, while our hearts never leave at all. Modern psychology calls this experience cognitive dissonance. Your brain wants one thing more than almost anything else: consistency. It wants your beliefs, your choices, and your reality to fit neatly together. So when reality refuses to cooperate, your mind begins rewriting the story. Maybe another path would have been happier. Maybe I misunderstood everything. Maybe I ruined my own future. Notice something interesting. People don't usually obsess over decisions they know were terrible. They obsess over decisions that might have turned out differently. Because certainty ends suffering. Possibility keeps it alive. Most people believe they're haunted by regret. They're not. They're haunted by imagination. Think about it. The business you never started. The city you never moved to. The person you never called. The opportunity you never accepted. None of them hurt because you know what would have happened. They hurt because you never will. The human mind is extraordinary. It can create entire alternate lives out of nothing but one unanswered question. What if? That question has destroyed more peace than failure ever has. History remembers King Sejong as one of Korea's greatest rulers. What many people don't realize is how fiercely he was opposed. When he introduced Hangul, many of the most powerful scholars rejected the idea. They believed it would weaken the nation's intellectual traditions. He listened. He debated. He reflected. But once the decision was made, he stopped looking backward. Not because he believed he was perfect, because he understood something every leader eventually learns. Indecision spreads faster than mistakes. When a leader keeps questioning yesterday, no one has confidence in tomorrow. Sometimes, the courage to stop doubting is what changes history. King Jongjo was famous for asking difficult questions. He studied endlessly. He challenged his advisors. He examined every angle before deciding. But history also reveals another habit. Once he reached a conclusion, he accepted ownership of the consequences. No endless second-guessing. No emotional rewriting. No imaginary alternate futures. Great leaders don't spend less time thinking. They simply know when thinking must end and action must begin. Thousands of miles away, another ruler wrestled with the same problem. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, wrote something surprisingly simple in Meditations. Do what is in front of you. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Today, he understood something neuroscience now confirms. Attention is finite. Every minute spent reliving yesterday is a minute stolen from today. Regret always looks backward. Wisdom quietly looks ahead. Researchers writing in the Harvard Business Review describe a phenomenon called decision fatigue. Every decision drains mental energy. By the end of the day, our ability to think clearly begins to fade. But here's something even more dangerous. The greatest exhaustion often comes from decisions we've already made. Every time we reopen an old chapter, our brain treats it like a brand new problem. Imagine carrying every closed door on your back every single day. Eventually, it's not the past that becomes heavy. It's you. Many people misunderstand ancient wisdom. They think it teaches surrender. It doesn't. ChaeGeunDam never tells us to stop caring. It tells us to finish choosing, think carefully, question deeply, examine every possibility. But once you've chosen, release the doubt, along with the decision. Because the hardest thing to let go of isn't a relationship. It isn't success. It isn't failure. It's the imaginary life that exists only inside your mind. Every life is built, one decision at a time. Every path you choose closes countless others forever. That's unavoidable, but suffering often isn't. Centuries ago, Chaegundam left us with the truth. That feels even more relevant today. If you abandon something while still doubting it, you have never truly let it go. Maybe peace isn't found by making perfect decisions. Maybe peace begins the moment we stop putting yesterday on trial. So before you leave, I want to ask you one question. What decision are you still arguing with? Even today, leave your answer in the comments. Someone reading your story may realize they're not carrying that burden alone. And if this video gave you a new way to see your own life, please like, subscribe, and join us for more timeless wisdom that still speaks directly to the modern human heart.